What up, everybody? It's me, Mr. Rat, here with another deck profile to give y'all that chaos and mayhem which card fighting areas with post-updated Fighters Collection Nubatama. Yeah. As you can see, we're running a bit of the after image setup here. This is a different sort of build than my last Break Ride Shiranui build. I did enjoy it, but I figured this one is slightly faster because I don't have to wait on the Break Ride and then Break Ride over Break Ride or Break Ride into Shiranui. So with the two starters I have here, they're the same thing. They have after image. When the bound card gets put back into your opponent's hand at the end turn or at some time during the game, you get to pick up an after image card till you have at most 7 cards in hand. So 6 or less cards in hand, you pick this card up so you can play it again, because it is very important that you pick this card up because it helps countercharge. When something is in your opponent's bind zone, play this card. Your opponent has to choose something in their bind zone, kill it off, they choose, and then you countercharge one. And because you're going to hopefully be binding more than one card, hopefully 3 a turn, you get to get, hopefully somewhere along the line, you get your second Komajugusa. Moving on to our trigger lineup, because crits win games. We got 12 crit. Samidare, Topihiko, and Oroi, the Shiranui crit trigger. You know, the whole 5 draw card Shiranui thing. And then we got, of course, 4 hit triggers. Now, because G Guardians are a thing, Shigure is going to play her part. Now, I don't necessarily like the Nubatama G Guardian, because your opponent has to have 6 or less cards in hand for you to guard. But it's a Guardian, and it helps with those GB2 scenarios, and if you just so happen to come across them. And now with the ones, again, I did change it up a bit. So running 3 Fuki. Fuki helps pick things out of your opponent's hand of your choosing. So if your opponent doesn't start shuffling their hand and they put their cards always to the right or to the left, and you pay attention to that, you can start picking those perfect guards out of hand, or those stride fodders, or anything that's important to guard with when they have 3 or more cards that has been errated. So 3 of those, 4 of the after image PG. Use this as a pseudo Kuroko, not to mention it has after image, so I could pick it up after I use its skill. When you have one of these in the drop zone and you boost an attack with this card, you can Soul Blast one and your opponent chooses something in their bind zone and kills it off. So you can really start using it. Goes well with a Sukumura-kan, because you don't want all those cards going back to their hand and your opponent's like, you know what, they have no means of killing those cards off until you start playing, you know, your starters or starter, and then this guy or girl here, if you have the soul. And because we play Fuki, we'll have the soul. We have 4 stride fodder, because stride fodder is very important in this stride deck, and for searching out Shiranui. And because we only run 7 grade 3s, so we may not always want to pitch a 3 that we may need. Then we are running 4 Dreadmaster. In my opinion, Dreadmaster is a must-have, at least 2 or 4 playset, as you can see, because when he boosts an attack, if you have less cards than your opponent and the attack hits anything, rear guard, vanguard, whatever, your opponent has to discard a card. So they'll be constantly shifting out of 5, 10k, depending on what he's boosting. More than often than not, he'll be boosting a 9k rear guard. Or if you have the grade 3 that gives +3, then he'll be a bit of an annoyance in the background there. And so my grade 2s, because I had to make space for Fuki, 2 Nibikatabira, this card here, Shiranui specific. So when you place it, Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, Shiranui Vanguard. You give this card plus 3,000 and a different rear guard plus 3,000 and the after image ability. So if you only had one card left in hand and you do your triple drive, there's 4 cards in hand, and so there's this card that say you used it on Miyabi or Tamahagane. So you can start picking cards up and start reusing their skills for a later turn or the next turn. And speaking of Miyabi, we have 4 Miyabi. Miyabi, her skill is when she's an Amber clone, so when she's boosted and attacking the Vanguard, if you have less cards than your opponent, you get to pick a card from their hand and bind it face down. And she gets a +3 for that battle. So the most she'll be swinging for is 19. If she, more than likely, you'll have a 7K booster behind her, unless you're running a 8K, and then she'll be swinging for 20. Yay. So we got Tamahagane. Tamahagane is like the second ride target for most decks. Now if they are running anything that doesn't have a Forerunner, then that's just what it is. You're better off running riding this 2 and not getting a skill than not riding it to 2 at all. So that goes without saying. So when you ride a call this to rear, you get to instantly bind something on your opponent's field face up, and at the end of the turn it goes back to their hand, and that will trigger off your starter's skill. And now with the 3s, running 3 of the what is that? Keigaro Shinmyo. This card here is when you play it, has after image. Ride it on Vanguard, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, search top 5 for after image card, show the opponent added to your hand. Its rear guard skill is actually pretty decent. When you call it to rear, you get to give a different rear guard or unit, one of the other units +3. So you can give your Vanguard +3, or if you call again Dreadmaster, then you call this in front of it, so that's a 21K column there. Or you call this and have Miyabi, skill actually worth something, because she gets a +3, you throw a +3 on there, so she's swinging for 22 with a 7K booster there, so it's not bad. And then we have 4 of the boss monsters, Shiranui. Shiranui is pretty much one of the best cards we have in Nubatama thus far, outside of the Break Ride and Yozakura Kongo, in my opinion. Shiranui, his skill, when you stride over him, Counterblast 1, your opponent has to discard a card, and you choose something on their rear guard circle and bind it face up. You can easily pick off a starter, and that can instantly, pretty much with the starter skill, you can make his skill free. And his GB2 skill is when you have less cards than your opponent and you attack the Vanguard, he gets 5 in a crit. It's decent, not amazing, but that really pushes out cards from your opponent, so they don't want to deal with 2 damage at 4 damage, 5 damage, and so on and so forth, especially with 12 crit. And now for the G-Zone, running 1 Sea Breeze, just for that, just in case my opponent is playing a grade 2 game and they either are waiting for me to go to 3 first and refuse to re-ride a 2 or a 3 and ascend on from there, or if they are grade locked and unfortunately haven't come across another 2 and they have no other 2 in hand, then I'm going to wreak havoc with this card here. When you, like I said, if your opponent, this card only works when you're on grade 3 and your opponent's on 2 and they did not ride or re-ride another 2 or 3 the previous turn, then you can use this card. So when you stride with it, Counterblast 2, discard a card, and then as long as they did not ride the previous turn with anything, then you can use this card. Otherwise, it's just a placeholder. and of course you get the stride first technically. But for Counterblast 2 and discard a card, it is kind of a hefty cost, but it's very worth it in my opinion if those situations come up. 2 of the G Guardian will probably maybe kick it up to 3, and then you know, show the next one here. But when your opponent has 6 less cards, it gets an extra +5. So it's like, okay, that's cool. Then we have Dismal. You can run Dismal or Screw, whichever one you really prefer. I prefer this one just because if I am playing a retire heavy deck, and they are going to pretty much attack one of my rear guards, or if one of their rear guards attacks my rear guard. No, they have to. Yeah, basically how this card works, they have to attack your vanguard, and then you use this card, and then you make one of your front rear guards invulnerable, so they cannot attack it. They can't use any types of effects on it. They cannot shoot it for anything. So it's just there, and it's like, hey, you can't touch me. So they pretty much have to swing at your vanguard, assuming you don't have another rear guard up front. Sorry if I did mess that up a little bit there. Running 3 of the Gator Surakan on hit. When he hits, your opponent has to discard a card. It's like, okay, that's cool. I mainly use 3 to flip up 1 for Sukamura skill. When you stride with this card, Counterblast 2, flip up a copy of something in your G-Zone. And then your opponent has to keep 4 cards in hand and bind the rest face down. Assuming you in a pretty decent game and your Counterblasts are there for you, Counterblast 1, your opponent has to discard a card and you bind something else on their field. So now they have 3 cards to defend with. With that many crits in deck, it's just why. 4 of the Rikudo Stealth Dragon Golden Rakan. I really like this card here. It's good for field wipes. So when you strike with this card before you use Shiranui skill, if you use this card specifically when your opponent has 5 or 6, preferably a full field. So 6 all their cards in the field. So they choose 2 rear guards, right? And then they bind 3 of their choose. They bind the rest. Then if 3 were bound, they have to get rid of 2 in their bind zone. And that's before you Shiranui skill. So there's 2 rear guards right there. Then you Counterblast 1, your opponent discards a card, and then you bind something. You bind one of the other 2 that they chose not to. So that's 3 cards in the bind zone. Then in a perfect game, you got both of your starters. So that's what, 1, 2 cards in bind zone. You call both. And you got rid of so many cards in one turn. It's like so it's a really good card to me. When they have 5 rear guards, they still have to bind 2. They don't get rid of anything, but that's fine. That's still 2 rear guards that I have in the bind zone, so I can start getting my after image cards back. And then to finish things off for Targa Lord, because the Targa Lord helps win games. His skill GB2, when he attacks, Counterblast 1, Persona Flip, and your opponent has to bind the card from the hand face down. And when they do, if they have 3 or less cards in hand, he gets a crit. So more times than I can count, I've gotten people with this skill just because they play to my game. You have, with this deck, you have to strategically plan things out. Sometimes a turn or 2 ahead of time, and but you don't want to sit there and eat up the timer either. So you got to think, and you got to think fast. So hopefully everyone liked this deck profile. If you did like the video, comment, or any questions, leave them in the comment section. Any recommendations, or if this helped you, give you an insight on Nubatama, subscribe to my channel. That'd be a great thing right there. I much appreciate that. Alright, have a good day. Holla!